Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You. And after last week's show, we received this complaint. Charlotte Church should not have been on the programme as the language was appalling. Should have heard her backstage after she'd had a drink. In the news at the White House, after only 2 days in the job, George Bush's new butler begins to feel the strain. In Hollywood, a film critic regrets telling Russell Crowe he didn't much like his latest film. And at a grocer's in South London, a confused old lady brings back the meat pie she bought the previous day. On Ian Hislop's team, a GMTV presenter who claims she always tries to hang around with badly dressed ugly people to give herself the chance of looking half decent, and you can judge for yourself whether it's working tonight. Annie Smith. And with Paul Merton tonight, a comedian who enjoys taking part in panel shows for the amusing conversation and a good meal afterwards. So sorry to disappoint him on both counts. Graeme Garden. Round one covers all the major news stories of the week, all two of them, Ian and Penny.
It's Tony.
Ah, I know what this is. This is
a boy
police.
running.
And it's police checking up on who's cheating in Kiss Chase. Those are obviously culprits.
It's a supply teacher, isn't it?
Then I'm going to have police in inner city schools where there's high crime and truancy.
Yes, and what will the police be doing in the schools?
Teaching.
No, they won't.
They're patrolling.
Yes?
They're armed patrols in all corridors, and at break, everyone has to lie flat for 15 minutes,
right,
just to check there's no trouble.
Who was that woman with the blonde hair?
No one knows.
You mean you don't?
Yeah.
She's probably got an inkling herself. So the sense that nobody knows who she is wrong.
It was a lie. So how are they combating truancy? What's one of the other more controversial things that Tony has suggested?
Scrapping child benefit.
No, they're just docking the ones of the parents who have dodgy children.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Tony Blair have a son who was found in Leicester Square?
Yeah, sure, he didn't get child benefit for a week.
No.
He announced the measure, and then everybody in the cabinet said, I don't think it's a very good idea, Tony. Well, and wouldn't back it.
John Prescott's reaction was, if docking benefit's a possibility, I'd be prepared to consider it as a possibility. And so what can Manchester look forward to in particular?
Armed police on the street because of the high crime rate in Moss Side.
And machine guns they're going to get. There you are. Heckler and Koch. The name of the gun.
You know the name of the gun, but you don't know the name of the woman in the photograph, do you?
Interesting set of priorities you've got there.
But they know where you live.
The Daily Express launched its campaign for police officers to be allowed to carry weapons, though the weapons suggested do seem a little outdated. Tony Blair's proposals are part of a drive to eliminate antisocial behaviour. According to The Guardian, the Prime Minister is intent on tackling the so-called neighbour from hell problem, or Gordon Brown as he's known. Paul and Graeme, your happy return.
It's Saddam Hussein's birthday. There's the old traditional playing a flute into a paper cup.
That's right.
And these people are forced to celebrate. There we are, they're very, very happy. Little gun, little flag, very happy. Got a little hat. Under Saddam Hussein, I have a hat, a gun and a flag. I could not be happier.
There's some little girls dressed up as suicide bombers.
They did.
And I didn't realise suicide had a sort of uniform. You'd think people would be on the lookout for them.
We can see them here, they look... there we are. And there was also someone who seemed to be dressed as a knife block.
Oh, they know how to have a good time in Baghdad, don't
They take 2 daggers into the shower. Rough, isn't it?
How did Saddam celebrate it?
He popped out on the balcony
Yeah.
and saw the little girls dressed up as suicide bombers and went back in again.
He did go to one riotous birthday party. We can see him here having a hell of a time.
That's a hell of a cake, isn't it?
It's a nuclear weapon.
Looks like it.
It's Sportsman of the Year award, isn't it?
Are those the UN presence inspectors who are seeing if he's got presence of mass destruction?
To Saddam Hussein's 65th birthday and the outburst of public rejoicing that accompanied it. For the past few months, Saddam has made no secret of the fact that he wants a war with Israel, but sadly all he got was a pair of socks and a book token. This week also saw the opening night of Saddam's new play, based on his own novel. Critics hailed the play a huge success and then went in to see it. So at the end of that round, the scores are 2-2, which means the teams are level. Neither is better than the other, and they're not separated by some ridiculous away goals count double ruling. And so from news coverage, we turn to the tabloids, or more particularly the wit-free zone of the headline writers, for rampant illustrations of the sub-editor's art, Ian and Penny. We have ways of making you trains.
Britain can no longer make trains. We can't make trains run on time. We can't make trains, period. We can't do anything to do with trains. So the Germans have said, all right, we'll make all your trains. Or
yes.
some of them.
Yes, that's an element of the story, certainly.
Don't put your hand up, there'll be police round.
Yeah, it is about trains.
This is going to take a while, this one, I have a feeling.
It's about German trains. We are buying loads of German trains, but the Germans, being thorough, wanted to test them, but there are no rail tracks in Germany as bad as the rail tracks in this country. So they had to distress about 10 miles of German railway track by sawing holes in them and denting them with hammers and even putting plastic leaves on the line to test the trains under British conditions.
Yeah, £7 million they spent trying to recreate the conditions of British railway lines. Yes, they inserted...
Well, it costs money to have railways as bad as ours.
Yeah.
Who unveiled their Pendolinos this week?
Richard Branson.
Yes. What are they? Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear about it. I played my Branson card and it turned out to be correct.
Yeah.
You brought out the Branston.
You did, literally. And what's special about the Branson train?
It's a tilting train. It tilts 140 miles an hour, but at the moment it can do 125, but they're hoping, you know, after the tests are complete that they can do an extra 15 and it'll be 140 miles between Manchester and Euston.
And what have they got on them? What's so state-of-the-art?
Passengers?
Ejector seats.
Taxis. For when it breaks down, so you just call one.
It is the news that a German train manufacturer has deliberately damaged its test track in order to recreate the dilapidated condition of English railways. After the work, the new track was so realistic, the first train sped through 3 red lights and then derailed. Railway companies may have finally solved the problem of leaves on the line with the introduction this week of their new laser gun. The device fires an infrared beam at the speed of light, roughly 186,000 miles per second. That's in Europe, of course. The British speed of light is only 25 miles an hour. Paul and Graeme, your subtle spin. Woof justice.
It's about animal rights, isn't it? A Bill of Rights for animals. Cats should be given the same rights as old ladies. Tortoises and horses and things should be allowed to sort of run small businesses. You know, take courses in elementary bookkeeping, that kind of thing. They should be more like us.
And who are they cracking down on?
Humans.
Yes.
Because they're responsible for all the troubles if you're an animal.
Right. In particular, which kind
Well,
of
that's
humans?
not necessarily true. If you're a mouse, you get an awful lot of trouble from owls. Tremendous lot of trouble. You're out being a mouse, you're thinking, and you hit a swoop and you're gone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
From predators.
Do you think the Bill of Rights will extend that far?
Yeah.
Well, it's
They
very...
arrest
An owl
owls?
won't take a blind bit of notice of you. You can pass as many laws of Parliament as you like. I mean, I think it was Churchill in 1924, when he was with the Liberals. They tried to stop owls wearing duffel coats.
Well, that worked.
That worked.
That worked.
That worked. Yeah. You try putting a duffel coat on an owl, and it won't wear it.
And gerbils are the other people who are going to be...
The other people. This is hardly David Attenborough. Life on Earth.
Yeah, but you've got to regard them as
Crocodile
human.
coming down the bank. Here comes Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Ratty. They're not sure if the bill covers rats or not. This is a picture taken this week of a rat.
That's the robo-rat.
Yeah.
Testing a rail.
Seeing if it can go faster than the train.
What is that rat doing? What's been done to it?
It's got electrical signals. It can turn left or right.
can go and find people in earthquakes and collapsed buildings.
Yeah.
This one looks a bit lost if it's looking for an earthquake.
And if you've been in a collapsed building, the first thing you want to see is a rat with a battery tied to it. We're saved.
It is the controversial Bill of Rights for domestic pets. Under the new proposals, dogs will no longer be allowed to have their tails docked. Hardly a primary concern when you've just kissed goodbye to your testicles. It's been a week of heartwarming animal stories. In Aberdeen, a cat was rescued by an RSPCA vet from a tank of freezing cold water. He told The Times the animal was cold and wet after its experience. All those years of training finally paying off. In the Pacific Ocean, a mongrel terrier was abandoned on a shipwreck for 24 days. By a stroke of good fortune, the dog was spotted and winched aboard a passing freighter, unfortunately bound for South Korea. Ian and Penny, your revolving paradox. Off digital.
This is ITV Digital, which has now been switched off. It reminds me there was a wonderful letter in the Daily Mail the other day from some woman who's saying, I find it very surprising that ITV Digital has gone bust. What with it being advertised so heavily by an illiterate yob and a knitted monkey.
What's happened to the monkey?
There's a fight over it.
Yeah,
it's got 2 job offers.
Yeah.
What are the offers? Director General of the Beeb, obviously.
ITV Digital claim that it's part of their assets. Fancy claiming a knitted monkey as an asset.
Well, they're quite desperate, aren't they? Yes. There's not the books, is there? Assets. Monkey.
Yeah.
Brackets knitted.
Knitted.
Do you know it's quite
Liabilities.
Yeah.
Football.
So who's getting a refund? Which ITV Digital viewers?
Not very many of them.
There are some viewers who subscribed after the administrators took over. How stupid would you have to be?
Well, yeah.
So what other TV disaster this week?
Was it the Channel 4 morning show? RI : Southeast.
I think it's a displaced colon.
Ah.
Oh, you wouldn't want one of those, would you? Particularly not in the morning.
No, it's not pleasant.
Is it good? Have you seen it?
I've seen bits of it, yes. 5 people behind a desk. I don't think it'll ever catch on. Its target audience, it says, is 16 to 24-year-olds, although it seems to have turned out to be 16 24-year-olds. And so how's it doing in the ratings?
Not very well.
Not well, no. Being beaten by BBC One, GMTV, obviously.
Massively.
And
yes.
Clifford the Big Red Dog on BBC Two.
Are you a fan?
Of Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Yes.
I'm now. Yeah.
Would you like to see him?
Oh, yes.
There we are.
Oh,
He's not very big.
he's very small, isn't he?
Barely a dog.
Have you
Unless, of
watched
course,
this
that's
programme?
a giant little girl. Oh, where's the rest of him? That's impossible. Look, he couldn't. How could he get his head through that tiny window?
I think he goes into the building and then becomes
And
big.
then grows.
Oh, I
Implausible.
see.
Unless he's mistaken it for a duffel coat.
So it is more bad news from the world of television. ITV Digital turning off its pay channels at 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning, although it wasn't until Thursday afternoon that anyone noticed. The parent company, Granada, is currently facing a £90 million loss, a debt they can only hope to recoup if someone buys a pasty at one of their service stations. And finally, in this round, Paul and Graeme, fair way to prison.
Ah, this is the gentleman, Mark...
Collinson.
Collinson.
Yeah,
Yes.
a golfer.
Yes, who was, for many years, has been a sort of accepted practice that, you know, golf courses that have sort of lakes in them, bodies of water, the golfers knock the balls into the lake. Somebody comes along, picks the balls up, puts them back to the, you know, the golf club, and he got caught doing this and sent to prison.
And is it a scandal, do you think?
He paid tax on it. He didn't deceive anyone.
Yeah.
He goes to prison for 6 months.
But isn't he being let out now?
No, he's got an appeal and he could be out this weekend.
Right.
And who stepped in?
The
Jimmy
Daily Mail.
Tarbuck.
Yes, Tarbuck and Brucey, and the latest addition is Tony Blair.
Really? He
Yeah.
can see a bandwagon a mile off, can't he?
Do you play golf? You must be, you're Scottish.
No, I don't play golf. No, do you?
No.
Funny, you're called Angus.
Curious. Even more curious, I'm not actually Scottish. Well, I'm half Scottish.
Would you play half a round then?
And he only pays for half his round afterwards.
That is true.
That's an exaggeration.
Is it?
This is the man accused of theft after diving for lost golf balls and has now been sentenced to 6 months in prison. According to the Sunday Telegraph, this weekend, Mr Collinson should have been taking his young daughter to her swimming classes, where she's an expert in front crawl, backstroke and retrieving small objects from the bottom of the deep end. The prison sentence has cut short Mr Collinson's ball retrieving career. This summer he had hoped to make a fortune in Japan by standing outside the stadium during England's next penalty shootout. Which slack behaviour means at the end of this whole round, it's, well, Paul and Graeme who are bang on course, ahead as they are, 8-4. Round 3 is our odd one out round, and vice versa. Ian and Penny, your teenage icons are John Prescott, Donald Rumsfeld, Brian Glover, and Jimmy Savile. KBE.
Cigar smokers?
Is it physical violence?
There will be in a moment. No, not as far as I'm aware.
Because Jimmy Savile was a wrestler and...
No,
Brian Glover was a wrestler, Donald Rumsfeld was a wrestler, and John Prescott was a boxer. So
Yeah.
he's the odd one out.
Is the right answer.
Yeah.
Donald Rumsfeld, when was he wrestling champion?
He was a wrestling champion in 1958.
In 1956.
Oh, that was 2 years out.
Yeah, very close. And how has he been described recently?
If you look at the picture, he's a tag wrestler.
Yeah, there we are.
He's a babe magnet for the over 70s, according to Dick Cheney.
Does that count as babe magnet?
Small pigs.
What name did Brian Glover wrestle under then?
Don't tell me.
Red Nose.
No, I'll come back to me in a minute. It was Leon Aris.
Extraordinary, yes it was. How do you know that?
I knew it. I was a big wrestling fan when they used to have World of Sport in the 1970s.
Was it on in the afternoon?
On in the afternoon.
I'm just wondering.
The answer is that they're all ex-wrestlers, with the exception of John Prescott, who was a boxer. The Sunday Times recently ran a piece on Jimmy Savile, pictured here with his mother before she died. At least we hope it was. Brian Glover was proud of having no hair, telling The Sun, if someone wanted a bald northerner for a part, I'd have of getting it. That was assuming Thora Hird wasn't interested. Paul and Graeme, your fierce creatures are Peter Mandelson, Gareth Hunt, Brian Glover, and Sue the Chimp.
Is Peter Mandelson the odd one out because he's the one who's a confidant of Labradors?
He's whispering something, isn't he?
The Labrador's briefing against Mo Molam.
This has got to be about tea, I think, isn't it, wouldn't you say?
The chimp tea?
Yeah, the chimp tea. Brian Glover did the voiceover for Tetley's.
Tetley's, yes.
Gareth Hunt famously was the coffee man, that's right, yeah. So Gareth Hunt must be the odd one out because he's advertised coffee.
Is the right answer again. What's Mandelson working on?
He's working on the tea account.
Which one?
He's joined an advertising. Is it Lipton's?
It's not Lipton's.
It's Thai food.
It is Thai food. So Gareth Hunt, yes, is the odd one out, as he acted in an advert for Nescafe. Why is that ironic?
Well, I don't know, why is it ironic?
Because he doesn't drink coffee.
That is ironic,
It's
isn't
extraordinary.
it? Do you bank at Barclays?
I do, actually. I don't have to bank at Barclays because I don't advertise them anymore. But you obviously
Don't
not
you?
noticed.
Who's taken over from you, then?
The Premier League.
The Premier League, all of them?
Gosh, you were expensive then. I was hoping you'd say Keith Chegwin. Anyone lined up as a replacement? I'll just turn on the telly and there he'll be, won't he?
Yeah.
Advertising stair lifts.
Yeah.
Angus.
Or one of those baths with a sort of car door that you...
I love them. That's great.
How do they work? The bath you can walk into, how do they work?
Yeah.
I'll never know.
You'd think the water would fall out.
Exactly. You fill up your bath, you think that's lovely, you open the door, surely. Water all over the floor. And when you get old, you get a bit confused. There's people all over the country, I've done it again.
Do the goodies ever advertise anything?
No, not as... I think we did Kleenex once.
Did you? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think you advertised Potterton boilers, didn't you? Did we? It wasn't in vision, fortunately, but we can hear it, yes.
Yeah?
It has a fully automatic it's a girl. That
was me.
Simply turn on the knob and walk away. Simply turn on the knob and walk away.
Terribly good, isn't it?
Advice though with a boiler, just turn on the knob and walk away. No question of lighting it, just turn on the gas and walk away.
Well, don't just walk, run.
Don't stop to light a fag.
The answer is that they've all been used to market tea, with the exception of Gareth Hunt, who starred in an advertising campaign for Nescafe, which featured two different kinds of bean, coffee and Has. Last year it was rumoured that Mandelson and his boyfriend Ronaldo might be breaking up. According to one paper, Ronaldo is worried he could be thrown out of the country as he isn't a British citizen, if only he knew someone who could help him get a passport. One of the first creatures to act in a PG Tips advert went by the name of Sue the Chimp, which is also the cry that goes of a private eye prints a libel.
I knew I'd done one advertising joke too many.
Which, strange brew, means at the end of this element it's Paul and Graeme who are steaming ahead, leading as they do 12-4. And so to the audible relief that accompanies our final missing words round, a writhing mass of suspect headlines with some dubious black oblongs, including some more or fewer from this week's guest publication, the literally awesome Cross-Stitch Crazy. So stand by for Maggie was what, says Le Pen?
Hairy.
Right?
Insatiable.
A man.
A great man is the answer.
Ah.
This is according to a man called Jean-Marie. Doesn't make sense, does it? Next is Betis e co-ed what?
Misspelt.
Is Betty co-ed, or does she just walk that way?
Is it stitchable, is the answer. Yeah. This is Beryl Norman of Blackpool, who wants to stitch a map of Betty co-ed onto the wall of her caravan.
What is a caravan made of?
Well, something that you obviously can hang something up on the wall of.
Well, you've certainly done your research this week. What was the answer? Who did you write to a cross-stitch expert?
Yes.
Ask Alice.
Jill Johnson.
Jill Johnson, is that what she's doing these days?
Next, pot-bellied iguana wins what?
Pop Idol.
The reptile darts tournament. Robin Cook look-alike contest.
The answer is a beauty contest. This was in Rome, a 3-day show called Reptilia. Next, what is best for your beagle?
Smoking.
A size 24 needle is the answer.
It's best for your beagle.
There's a Hilary Bowman who wants to immortalise her dog, Dylan, in cross-stitch, which she's done here. The real one's on the right, by the way.
Are those dogs possessed?
Next, Molum. They said I was what, and what?
Mad, bad and hopeless at remembering well-known quotations.
Young, black and gifted.
No, it's stupid, sick and screwing every man who moves.
Oh, yeah.
This is Mo Molum slamming, amongst others, Peter Mandelson, who she says spends no time with anyone who isn't powerful or influential. So presumably doesn't spend much time on his own these days. Next, can you stitch me what?
Up.
Like a kipper.
Baby.
Can you stitch me baby? You think
Yeah, well-known hit from the 50s.
Right.
Can you stitch me caravan?
Can you stitch me a goat? This is Mrs. Hayward of Aberystwyth, who writes to Cross-Stitch Crazy asking, can you do me a goat on its hind legs? I have a friend who has a goat farm and makes goat's cheese.
Yeah.
Next, backstairs Billy told to what?
Told to avoid euphemisms.
Leave the palace.
Not far off. Pack bags is how they put it, yes. This is the Queen Mother's trusty servant, his name Billy Talon. And lastly, let the poor what, says Tony?
Let the poor man keep his golf balls.
It's not a reference to that story, no. Let the poor have speed humps. Researchers have found that accident rates are directly proportional to the time spent on the street and the number of roads crossed. No shit, Charlotte. All of which unnecessary needle means at the end of tonight's stitch-up, this week's Low-Down Bums are Ian and Penny with 4, while this week's Rears of the Year are Paul and Graeme with 14. So, a Royal Opera box to our winners, an ITV digital box to our losers. But before we attempt to reintroduce them into society, the moral obligation of our caption competition, Ian and Penny have this.
That's Mrs. Thatcher saying, it's very good of you all to come. Night of the Living Dead. Especially John Major, look at him. Anyone remember me?
Is it the Spot the Queen competition?
Certainly not. Thank you. Paul and Graeme, get that.
Is that Japanese endurance game show? How many carpet tacks you can nail into people? The bloke on the top right is saying, for God's sake, somebody go, Oklahoma.
On which conclusive note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Penny Smith, Paul Merton and Graeme Garden. And I leave you with news that outside a Humberside branch of Pizza Hut, a delighted customer spots the all-you-can-eat for a £5 poster. On Dartmoor, after stealing a packet of buns, a young shoplifter senses he's maybe being followed. And in the studio of a Swedish cable channel, there are signs that a former TV star has fallen on hard times. Good night.
Next here on UK TV documentary, the biting satire continues, as comedian Ross Noble and newsreader Katie Derham guest. In more Have I Got 2002 for You.